Hey there, this is Christine Collins, and I have for you today a fun little story capped off with a tip that will be very relevant to you for your marketing. Okay, so I will tell you that for many, many years, I lived alone and I managed my own home. Everything that I did, I had only one person to consult with, and that was me. And that included everything from when to pay a bill to what kind of furniture to buy and what to buy for my home. And so I never really had to think very hard beyond myself, so obviously I had the same process as many people do with weighing out pros and cons, looking at costs and pricing and that sort of thing. But when you are navigating and negotiating with another party, the situation can be quite different. And so, keeping in mind, I was single for well over 10 years. And when the time came to make the first large-scale purchase for my home with someone else, I found that the process was quite different. Now, I want to talk briefly about a spectrum for buyers, and this is where it becomes very relevant to us as marketers. So there are multiple spectrums in the NLP realm that we understand in terms of how people make decisions. There are spectrums for things like whether or not somebody needs to have the big picture of something to understand, kind of the big picture goals versus needing to have a lot of the small, minuscule details in order for them to make a decision. So that's one spectrum. There's also a spectrum for being able to make a decision quickly and spontaneously. For example, sitting down in a restaurant and looking at a menu and going, okay, I want either this thing or that thing, but by the time the server comes by, your mind is made up and it's very easy for you. Versus someone who really needs to look at that menu in great detail. They need to read all of the little descriptions. They might need to see pictures. They might need to ask questions about the different plates. So there are differences in the way we make these kinds of decisions as well, and purchasing decisions are a big part of that. So when I went into the situation of making a large-scale purchase that happened to be a couch, so it was going to be a large item, it was going to have a big kind of longer-term impact, so we're not talking about purchasing like a pen, or a tablet to write on. It was a large-scale purchase, it was going to be a more expensive purchase, so there were lots of reasons why it was a bigger deal, and I should have realized that. Now, as I mentioned already in the past, when I had made furniture decisions for myself, I often was capable of walking into a store, looking at a few options, quickly weighing out the pros and cons in my mind, assessing things like maybe the fabric being comfortable, for example, or the size and certainly the cost. Those things were not particularly difficult for me to assess. And I usually, in my experience, could walk into a store, make a decision within maybe an hour, depending on the size of the purchase, and go home with a resolution that evening. So the couch story is that there was a big sale happening over a particular long holiday weekend. So it was a 3-day weekend. And the sale was really quite good. So in other words, we didn't want to miss out on that sale. And, we were relatively new homeowners together. Our budget was somewhat limited, so it was important that we make a good decision. And so we went into the store on a Friday. I think it was after work, but it was and since it was a holiday weekend, it was early afternoon, earlier than it normally would be. And I was thinking, we would go into the store, let's just say it was 2 or so or 3 in the afternoon, and I figured would figure something out and then go and have a nice dinner, to celebrate afterwards. Okay, so here's what actually happened. We went to the store around that time, late afternoon, 2 or 3, and we closed the store out, which I believe they closed either at 9 or it might have even been at 10 p.m. because it was a special weekend. So I think they might have had extended hours. So it was a situation where the front door had been locked and had to be unlocked to let us out afterwards. Fortunately, everyone was really nice about it and very friendly, but we were there for over 6 hours, probably closer to 7 hours. And so we did not make a decision on that first night and realized, yes, we would need to come back again the next day, because it was a 3-day sale, so our time was limited. And so the next day, we came back to the store, probably around the same time, perhaps even slightly earlier, since that would have been a Saturday. And, again, we were looking at options, we were sitting on furniture, we were asking questions, we were comparing, different things, online at the same time and looking at what's in the physical store and pulling up things on the website and doing all this sort of stuff. And long story short, the end of the second day also concluded with them unlocking that front door again to let us out because it had already been closed. And so now we're getting into the third day, which is the Sunday and final day of the sale. And the good news I will share, the happy ending is, yes, we did make a purchase. And yes, we did find what we needed and wanted. But the process itself took much longer than I had anticipated. And now this is many, many years later. So this was, several years ago. And Christine Collins did not back then have the knowledge and insight into how our brains work in terms of NLP and decision making. And what I understand about this today is that I am the type of decision maker in many cases where I'm able to quickly size up information and make a decision. And part of that is personality, part of that is life experience. I worked in a corporate role where I had to make a lot of really important big decisions very quickly and very frequently. And so I didn't have a lot of time in that job to kind of peruse a lot of different pieces of information. Decisions had to be made, and they often had to be made very quickly. And so part of that was training and conditioning. The other party in the situation is very different from me and needed more time, needed more research, needed to look thoroughly at all of the options to make sure that the decision was a good one. And here's what I can tell you about that. These two types, like on different ends of the spectrum, teaming up is actually really good and really healthy, because there have been many times since that day where I have been close to making a quicker decision that really needed more time and was allowing the other person to kind of slow me down and give me a little bit more time to investigate. And in some cases, I discovered that I would have made the wrong decision if I had made it too quickly. Now, the opposite can also be true, because you can also spend so much time making a decision that an opportunity may be missed, like in the example of the sale. Of course, there would have been other sales, but this really was a particularly good sale. And by taking advantage of it, we really did save a lot of money, and we really did get a really good situation for us. And so the moral of this story, in terms of your marketing, is that it's very important that we are compassionate and understanding of our audience, in the sense that there are people that are going to span this full spectrum. Some people are going to be right in the middle, and some will be on either end. And as a marketer, service provider, entrepreneur offering something to your audience, we never want to put someone in a position where we are pressurizing them to make a decision that's going to feel out of alignment for them because they did not have the opportunity to take the time that they needed. So it's really important that we tailor our sales process in a way that can accommodate both types of buyers. So you don't want to slow down somebody who is in that position that they're ready to go, they know what they want, and they're ready to jump. And we also don't want to create an environment for the other party that needs that time. They need to do the research. They need to sleep on it. They need to think about it. They need to read reviews. Perhaps they need to, thoroughly read the sales page and all of the ins and outs and the different little pieces and components that are there, and really think through that decision, particularly when it's a larger dollar amount. But this can absolutely apply to a toaster as I also found. It doesn't have to just be a big dollar purchase for somebody to need that extra time. No, there's probably a little bit of a difference in terms of how much time they need or want based on the size of the purchase, but it's really critical that we don't do things like high pressure sales calls where we put somebody on the spot and for whatever reason insist that they tell you today if they want to move forward with more work or service or product. That is never going to be helpful or supportive to your audience who's on the end of the spectrum where they need more time. And to be quite honest, as someone who often does make quicker decisions, I don't like that either. And, perhaps you feel the same if you've ever been in that situation before where you've been in a conversation and you've simply said something like, I really would like to think about this, or, I'd like to take a day or two and look at my budget or think through what the benefit of this is to me, or think through what my goals are and whether that's in alignment with my goals. If that other person says anything along the lines of, no, you really need to decide right now, that's not going to feel like a very good fit or an aligned situation. And so as marketers, we don't need to create pressure to try to get someone to make a decision. I really want for everybody who buys from me to feel really good about that, not just today, but a month from today and a year from today. I want them to look back and say, gosh, I'm so glad I bought the 𝓜𝓪𝓰𝓲𝓷. It's really added a lot of value to my life. And, whatever it is, I'm so thrilled that I became a Magic and Creation student and I've learned a lot from the program. That is the type of experience I want for people to have, and I don't want them to feel like they made a snap decision. So we can take this into account in a lot of ways. One of the ways that I implement this, and this is something that I've started doing more and more over time. When I first started my business, I didn't necessarily know any better either. And I'm sure that I probably did things that may have gone against what I now understand about how people make decisions. But what I can do today is I can make choices for how I run my business in terms of, hey, if I'm going to do something around a special event like a holiday sale, or I like to do things around my birthday every year, like Hobbit style. I like to give things away Hobbit style on my birthday. I don't make it where it's like you have 3 days. You have 3 days of this, mega sale, or a coupon code that's only good for 24 hours or that sort of thing. Because I understand that there are people that really need, maybe let's give them a week. Maybe let's give them longer. It just depends on you and your business and what sort of thing you have going on. I like to provide ample time for people. And at the same time, I like to make it immediately accessible for someone who's ready now, that I'm also not holding them back or forcing them to wait and saying, oh, I have this thing coming, but you're going to have to wait till next month. I don't really like doing that very much either. There's nothing wrong with a teaser, to let somebody know, let your audience know, hey, this is coming soon, this is going to be fun, there's some excitement that can build. But when it comes to actually, someone is ready to make the purchase, we don't want to hold them back either. So allowing for that spectrum to exist from the people that they've been following you, they've already been watching, they've already kind of decided they want to work with you. So when the opportunity comes and there's a special sale or whatever it is, a special opportunity, there's an added bonus, they're ready to go. Let's let them go ahead and go because they're already ready. And then at the same time, we're not going to punish the people who need that extra time. They're not going to miss out on the bonus or on the sale because they couldn't decide in 24 hours. 24 hours is a very short time to make a decision about anything. And so, it's really quite important that we take these neuroscientific differences into account as we design our marketing and our sales process and the types of things that we're offering, we really want to be inclusive of everybody and not leave, the poor guy out who needed that extra time to decide about a couch. This is really quite reasonable, now that I understand the different neuroscientific styles that we all have. So I hope you found this to be helpful and enlightening. Once again, I'm Christine Collins. You can always check me out at transformcreate.com. And in the meantime, I hope that you have an absolutely magical and creative rest of your day.